Hi, this is Pastor John. It's now Friday, September 18th, 2020. We're here in the next of our series, Finding Hope in the Book of Revelation. Now you might wonder how we're going to find hope in chapter 6. It's a challenging chapter. It talks about these 6 seals and some of the things that are going to come as destructive judgment upon the earth. So I'm going to read a few verses. We're going to look at the first 3 seals together today, and then we're going to see how there can be hope in that particular chapter. Now I watched when the Lamb opened one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures say with a voice like thunder, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering and to conquer. When he opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, "Come." And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth so that people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword. When he opened the 3rd seal, I heard the living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine." Now on the one hand, when we look at this passage, we're thinking about the destruction that's coming. Someone who is conquering, that is wreaking destruction on the earth. The second one, that is out there taking peace away so that people kill each other. And the third one, creating a financial or economic collapse. What's happening is, when it says here that a quart of wheat was for a denarius, in other words, 1 quart of wheat for an entire day's wage for the average person who's a day laborer. So the economy had collapsed so that prices have been inflated to a terrifying degree. So how is there hope in this? Well, remember the context of the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation, the people are receiving this letter from John, and despite all the different and strange language and so forth, he's writing this to encourage them. They will be blessed if they read this book. And many of them are going to face terrible persecution. In fact, if my understanding is correct, I tend to date this book before the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. So some of these individuals, when Jerusalem is destroyed by the Romans in this historical event, 70 AD, it's going to be awful. It's going to be absolutely terrible. And some of these things are going to be so appropriate for them to hear that part of this is God's judgment, God's plan. And that's where the hope resides, is the sovereignty involved in these seals. You see, these are planned things. These are not things that come out of the blue unplanned. Even notice this. Verse 4 says about the 2nd rider, its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth. Do you know what a comfort that is? To know that even these instruments of God's wrath, they don't come out on their own or under their own power. They're under the authority of God, the authority of the Lamb who's opening these seals. God is in charge of judgment. God is in charge of permitting destruction and lack of peace and economic ruin and these things that are coming. God's in control of those things. They can't do this unless the Lamb is opening the seal. And they can't do this unless they're permitted to go out and do this. You see, that's where our hope lies. Our hope lies in the fact that we have a God who has a plan. History doesn't come about because all of a sudden things happen and God is surprised. God works through history both through first causes where he intervenes and through secondary causes where instruments like these horses and so forth and people's interactions with each other. God has a plan. He's working all things for the good of those that love him. You see, he has a plan. And even these riders, yes, it's terrifying to think that peace is taken away. Yes, it's terrifying to think that we wouldn't be able to afford to buy food for our family. Yes, it's terrifying to think of some creature coming out being able to conquer with a bow and arrow. Yes, it's terrifying stuff. But behind the scenes, God is in control. He has a plan for His church. He has a plan for the world. His plan might not involve relief from suffering or trials or pain, but in the end, His plan is what we hope in, because His plan included this Lamb being the one that was slain for His people in the past, in the present, in the future, that they would be with God eternally even after these events took place.